Forget everything you think you know about justice. Forget a judge's verdict, forget a final appeal. The last sound you hear is far more personal. That one, the sound of a stone hatch slamming shut, plunging you into a darkness so thick you can feel it pressing on your skin. That tiny rectangle of light above you, your last connection to the world of the living, it just winked out of existence. Now here's the kicker. You haven't been sentenced to death. That would be too efficient. No, this special kind of medieval hospitality is infinitely more creative. You've been sentenced to be forgotten, erased from the guest list of humanity. Welcome to the Oubliette, history's most terrifying black hole. You know what was a real PR nightmare for a medieval king? A good old-fashioned public execution. Seriously, it sounds effective, but it was messy. You get a big crowd, someone gives a heroic final speech, and suddenly you haven't executed a traitor, you've just created a martyr for the opposition. It's the kind of bad press that could fuel a rebellion for 10 years. So what's the smarter, more cynical solution? You don't make them a public example, you make them disappear. This is the horrifying genius of the Oubliette. Its primary function wasn't pain, it was erasure. Think of it as the ultimate data wipe, but for a human being. The goal was to remove a person so completely from the world that they couldn't become a symbol, a story, or even a memory. It's a terrifyingly simple principle, best summed up by the historian Alastair Finch. Tyranny is measured not by how many men a king can kill, but by how many he can make the world forget ever existed. You weren't a prisoner on some list. You were a clerical error, a file quietly dragged to the trash. How do you even begin to fight an enemy who has already decided you don't exist? But that's just the political theory. The physical reality of being erased. That's where the real horror begins. Okay, so what's the first thing that actually happens when you're down there? The darkness hits you. And it's not just dark, it's a heavy physical blackness that feels like it's pushing on your eyeballs. You can put your own hand right in front of your face and you see absolutely nothing. It's the difference between being in a dark room and being swallowed. Then comes the silence. A quiet so absolute that your own body becomes the entire sound system. Your heart isn't just beating. It's a panicked thump, thump, thump you can feel in your own throat. And the cold? It's a damp, seeping cold that gets into your bones and just refuses to leave, making your whole body ache. The smell is exactly what you'd expect from a forgotten hole in the ground. Wet dirt, rot, and a faint coppery tang underneath it all that you really don't want to think too hard about. This isn't your trendy Los Angeles wellness pod where you pay $200 to find yourself. This is a medieval stone box where you lose yourself, piece by piece. Your brain, completely starved of real information, starts to do what it does best. It makes things up. It literally starts eating itself for entertainment. You've seen shapes in the clouds, right? What kind of faces do you think you'd see in an infinite, suffocating blackness? I want to see how twisted your imaginations are. Describe the first monster your brain would cook up down there in the comments below. And as your mind begins to fray from this sensory starvation, a single, primal instinct kicks in. That primal instinct? It has one single-minded, screaming goal. Get out now. And for the first few days, or what you think are days because time is just a word down here, you obey it. You become a creature of pure, desperate action. You scream until your throat feels like it's been shredded with sandpaper, but the only reply is a dull, dead echo that the stone walls barely even acknowledge. You run your hands over every square inch of the slick, damp stone, searching for a loose rock, a crack, a tiny imperfection. Your fingernails bend backwards and break. Your fingertips are raw and bloody, leaving sticky trails on the walls that you can't even see. It's like trying to find a glitch in a video game that was perfectly programmed to be unbeatable. Except there's no rage quitting. There's no walkthrough you can look up. This entire structure was designed by some medieval sadist with one purpose in mind: to prove to you that hope is a delusion. It's not a prison cell made to hold you. It's a perfectly sealed tomb built to convince you to give up. So what do you think would break first? Your voice from screaming, your fingers from clawing, or your spirit from the sheer crushing hopelessness of it all? And just when you finally surrendered, when you've accepted your new job as a living tombstone, a sound from above changes everything. It's the grating sound of stone grinding on stone, the trap door. A sliver of blinding light cuts through the darkness, and something falls, hitting the floor with a dull thump. It's a chunk of stale bread, hard as a rock. A moment later, a wooden cup of murky water splashes down beside it, and for a second, your heart explodes with a feeling you thought was dead: hope. But this isn't mercy. This is the world's absolute worst room service delivery, and it is a calculated act of cruelty. It's a tool, a technique designed to keep you alive just long enough to appreciate the full spectrum of your suffering. It's the medieval equivalent of your boss giving you just enough of a compliment to stop you from quitting your miserable job. It's a reminder that someone up there remembers you exist, and they are actively choosing to keep you in this state of living death. What do you think is crueler, to be completely forgotten, or to be remembered just enough to have the knife twisted day after day? So, if you appreciate this kind of 5-star medieval treatment, show your support by lighting up that like button. And make sure you subscribe to our guild so your name is never accidentally misplaced in the records. But as you're chewing that stale bread, feeling that tiny, treacherous spark of hope, your hand touches something else in the dark, something that isn't stone. And it is definitely not bread. It's a bone. There's no doubt about it. Smooth, hard, and unmistakably a human bone. That thing you just touched in the dark, it used to be someone's leg. You freeze, every muscle in your body tense. Slowly, you crawl forward, your hands mapping out the floor in front of you. Another bone, a rib cage, delicate and broken. And then, your fingers find the empty eye sockets and hollow grin of a human skull. This isn't just a prison cell. You're in a mass grave. You're the newest resident in a subterranean community of the forgotten. And that smell, that coppery, rotten smell you couldn't quite identify, you understand it now. It's the smell of generations of decay seeping out of the very bones you're now sitting on. It's like accidentally discovering a secret unlisted server where all the band's social media accounts go. Except these accounts aren't just banned from the platform. They've been deleted from existence, and you're the next one in the queue. Every hope you had, every desperate plan to escape, it all curdles in your stomach. So let me ask you, what would you do in that moment? Would you try to respectfully move them aside? Would you finally let out that one soul-shattering scream? Or would you just curl up in a ball and accept that you've finally met the roommates? Finding out you're trapped in a graveyard is one thing, but what happens when the residents start talking back? Of course, the bones don't actually talk, but at this point, your brain doesn't really care about actually anymore. Its internal algorithm is now completely broken. Starved for input, it's now scraping the cache of your worst fears and deepest memories to create an endless, personalized horror movie starring you. There are no commercial breaks. There is no off switch. You start giving the skulls names. You have long, one-sided conversations with them. You tell them about your life, and their silent, empty jaws seem to whisper advice back to you. The damp, swirling patterns on the stone walls aren't just patterns anymore. They're faces, distorted, screaming faces that watch you day and night. The line between what's real and what's a hallucination doesn't just get blurry, it completely dissolves. Your own memories start to feel like they happened to someone else in another life. The physical pain of the cold and the hunger, that's just background noise now. The real torture is happening between your ears. So which do you think is worse? The real physical horror of being trapped in a pit full of bones, or the unlimited, tailor-made horrors that your own mind can create when it's left completely alone? Because once your mind has officially checked out, once you've become just another ghost in the pit, there's only one last thing left to fail. And that last thing left to fail? Your own body. After your mind has completely checked out, your body begins its final, quiet shutdown sequence. It's not a dramatic fight, it's a methodical surrender, like an old smartphone on 1% battery. Your breathing, once a panicked storm, becomes shallow. Your thoughts, once a riot, are now just blank spaces. The system is going offline, but the charger isn't coming. There's no last-minute rescue, no final plot twist. There is only a profound, boneless exhaustion before you simply stop. You slump over, becoming just another part of the floor, another layer in the foundation of this forgotten place. The task is finally complete. You have been successfully erased. But just because your story is over, it doesn't mean the story ends. In fact, this is where the real power of the oubliette begins. Because here's the most twisted part of it all. The oubliette didn't need to be full to be brutally effective. Its true power wasn't in its use, it was in its existence. It was the ultimate piece of psychological malware in the medieval world. You didn't have to actually get thrown into the pit. Just knowing it was there, hidden in the depths of a lord's castle, was enough to change how everyone acted. The whispers and rumors were the real weapon. Places like Leap Castle in Ireland, with its infamous oubliette lined with wooden spikes at the bottom, didn't need to use it every day. The legend of it did the work for them. It was a constant, silent threat that enforced loyalty and silenced dissent far better than any public execution ever could. So what is the ultimate weapon of a tyrant? Is it a sword, an army, or is it the power to simply delete you from the story, to wipe your existence so completely that it's as if you were never even born? Because in the end, the greatest human fear isn't death. It's the terrifying certainty that you can be utterly and completely forgotten. Let us know in the comments what you truly fear more, a quick, sharp end, or the slow, silent horror of being forgotten. Keep this fire burning bright with a like so these stories never fade. Share this knowledge so the forgotten are remembered, and subscribe to join our circle of guardians who stand against the darkness. But the prison of stone is not the only horror, and you can continue the journey into a fortress of solid ice by clicking the video on the screen right now.